Arizona defense continues to look surprisingly good in camp. Is this something that can actually hold over into the regular part of the season?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it Locked On Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you today by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Well, it's actually here. And again, start planning all of your bets right now with FanDuel. Check it out. Okay, now, we got a lot to get to this show. We are going to talk about Arizona football being 2 weeks out from the start of the season. Arizona, Hawaii, should be a very interesting game. Like we've talked a lot about the defense this camp and about, what exactly Arizona needs from the defense, all of that stuff. And offense as well. I believe the offense still has to be able to carry this team to a certain degree. If the offense doesn't carry the team, then like I said, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So there's that. But let's talk a little bit about the defense, though, and what everything is. Now, the defense has looked pretty good in camp. Now, it hasn't been a situation where, they've, where they basically, dominated every single day, like some are saying, but they've looked pretty good. And the thing about it, too, is that I think you're going to have a far more creative pass rush, which is something that this team needs. Last year, obviously, it wasn't a great pass rush. You had, I think, 21 sacks, something like that. I think Arizona's looking to get into that, around that 30 sack range. And the thing about it as well, you've got defensive linemen, too, that at least somewhat look the part. The problem is they're not very deep. So, like I said, take that as you will. But the first thing, though, that we do need to talk about is where is Arizona then with, as far as that pass rush goes. And Danny Gonzales has said that they want to be multiple. They want to be able to find a lot of different ways to be able to get to the quarterback. And a lot of that's going to start with the D-line. And like we talked about, Deshaun McKnight, he's got to get healthy, but he's looked pretty good in camp so far. I can't really sit here and complain about how McKnight's looked. He's looked pretty good. Not only has he looked good, Tia Savea's solid, not great, but solid. And Trey Smith, he's solid as well. Who's going to be that other pass rusher? And that, to me, it doesn't even really matter at that point whether that's a Riley Wilson, whether that is a Malachi Bailey. They're going to be sent after the quarterback, and they're going to have to be able to get to the quarterback. And I think that's something, like I said, that's something with Danny Gonzales that you're going to want to see. And, like I said, that's something that, from a play calling perspective, he's good. Like I said, you look at his track record as a DC, it's fairly solid. The problem, though, is, does he have enough talent to be able to work with? And I think that's the thing that we just got to keep looking at is the talent there? Is the talent sufficient? And I don't know. I can't really sit here and, say that the talent is good, that the talent is sufficient, whatever the case may be. We're going to find out. But the D-line, I'm actually okay with the pass rushers. I think Chase Kennedy as well. He's a little bit bigger than he was. Thing with Chase Kennedy is he's just got to continue to show. He's got to continue to show what he can do. There were some times last year where you watched him and you're like, okay, cool. This guy gets it. And there were other times where you're like, man, he's just too small. So, like I said, we'll find out. At that linebacker spot, Tay Brown is okay. It's not bad. After that, though, I think you got a lot of question marks. But like we talked about, though, I think it also kind of depends on where you, from a pass rush perspective and where exactly are these guys lining up. If Riley Wilson's a linebacker, then, that changes the texture of the linebacking core to a certain degree. If he's not, well, that's also an issue as well. And then on the secondaries look good. The secondary is going to be solid. I have no doubt that the secondary is going to be good. You watch the secondary and, maybe there isn't the top end talent per se outside of Genesis Smith, who we'll get to in a second. But overall, the defensive backs are, I think they're solid and there's more depth. I mean, last year, you had guys like Demetrius Freeney that were and Emmanuel Carnley who were playing a lot. You got better options this year. When you've got somebody like, obviously, a Marquise Groves-Killebrew, you need him to be healthy. But if Marquise Groves-Killebrew is healthy, then I think that they could be pretty good. The other thing as well is also Javion Cole. Javion Cole is fascinating in all of this. He is a he's a fascinating guy too. He's because he didn't play at Texas, but at the end of the day, he was good at San Jose State. Just because you're not good at Texas doesn't mean that you can't play here. I'm going to keep saying that. I'm going to keep saying that time and time and time again. And you got some solid options behind them as well. At least, I mean, Garnes looks like he can be solid. Not only does he look like he can be solid, you've also got a guy in somebody like like I said, a Genesis Smith and a Dalton Johnson. Those guys are going to be good. The safeties are good, and I think the corners can be good. You've also got a guy that in Traden Stukes, that if he's fully healthy, he's one of the better nickel backs in the entire country. So that is a big part of all of this, is that you've got something where you've got some players that you can be able to rely on. It's going to be interesting. Now, the other thing we need to talk about, though, is what does that mean, though? How good can this secondary be? And can Genesis Smith be somebody that also influences the pass rush? But first, the first thing we got to talk about, though, is FanDuel. FanDuel, my friends, check out FanDuel. Let's hear it. Here's the deal. For just August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you details on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling the MVP or eyeing a long shot division winner, you got a lot of cool stuff that you can put in there. Or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one? All of that stuff. This is your time. So take a flyer on the MVP race. I think it's going to be Pat Mahomes or probably Josh Allen. I'm going to go Josh Allen, actually. Crown your champ in August, or parlay your division winner, dark horse choices. Visit the FanDuel app and start planning your future bet now. Visit Futures Day, because Future Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game, my friend. Football is here, and we are all better for it. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about where we are at now with this secondary. The secondary, like I said, I think it's got to be kind of the strength of the defense. Not only does it have to be a little bit of the strength of the defense, I think Genesis Smith has to be somebody that he also, you employ him a little bit kind of like Roy Williams was back in the day for Oklahoma, where, he's going to be in coverage. He's good at it, but he also needs to be able to get after the quarterback. And I think there's going to be something to be said for that. As a matter of fact, I'd be kind of shocked if that wasn't, in the game plan. So a big part of this, though, with Genesis, though, is that he's got to look like an NFL player. If this defense is going to be good, he's got to look like an NFL player. If he doesn't look like an NFL player, then this defense probably isn't going to be very good. He's got to kind of be everywhere. He's got to be able to get after the quarterback. He's also got to be able to make plays in pass coverage. And I think it was Danny Gonzales that said, if he's not in the, if he plays up to his capabilities, he can be in the NFL in a year. And, with Arizona, you've had 2 straight years, Arizona first round pick you, where you've had 2 guys the last 2 years that have been picked in the first round, in Jordan Morgan and now in T-Mac. Last year also you had somebody, and then you had a second round pick in Jonas Sabanea, who can be that next guy then. And I think that will be if there is going to be somebody on the roster, it's going to be Genesis Smith. Genesis Smith's that dude. We'll find out. But Danny Gonzales has talked a lot about how he's got to be able to put him in a position where he can make the plays that he needs to be able to make. Now, the other one, Seth Doege, moving over to the offensive side. I have no clue how good this offense is going to be as far as but it's all going to come down to the offensive line. If the offensive line can be just okay, then I think this team can be decent. The thing that the line has going for is, while you lost more top end talent, maybe they're a little bit better. Maybe they're a little bit deeper. I mean, you had guys like Michael Wooten that were having to play tackle last year. That's obviously not ideal. He's been moved inside. Maybe they're a little bit deeper. I mean, and if you're able to move a guy like Rhino inside as well, because you have a lot of faith in Bounds and you have a lot of faith in Buchanan, that's probably a good thing. And then it also shows you too that, like I said, maybe there's a little bit of hope there. But we won't really know until all of this starts. And I think that's where, like I said, you watch it and you're just kind of like, okay, we shall see. We shall find out. This is going to be an interesting situation, though, for Arizona as well, because The all eyes are going to be on the offense, more so even than the defense, and honestly, for a real reason, and it makes total sense. You have to be able to offensively, you have to be able to get after the quarterback, or excuse me, offensively, you're going to have to be able to put the quarterback up there. Noah Fafita is going to have to make plays, and we're going to talk about what his statistical expectations should be, because I think there's probably something that we're maybe overlooking a little bit. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, Noah Fafita. I'm at the point with Noah Fafita where I need something like, I need 3,500 yards, and I think he can do it. I need him to be able to throw for about 270 to 300 yards per game. If he does that, then I think Arizona's going to be in good shape. I also need him to look comfortable out there. The thing about him last year is that he never looked comfortable, and that was a problem for Arizona. And obviously, I put that on Dino Babers. Babers, you watched him last year, and obviously the offense just didn't look like it really knew what it was doing. I need the offense to be able to look like it's a. I need the offense to be able to look like we're kind of at the point too where it's like, all right, what is that next step then? And and that's kind of where it's at. Is he going to look comfortable out there? He is a guy that, like I said, you watch him, he's got a good enough arm. People always talk about he's 5'7", 5'8", whatever he is. But at the same time, though, he's also somebody that is, like I said, you watch him, the arm is more than good enough. He's a good decision maker. You just look at the offense. The offense was terrible at Arizona with Jaden DeLaura. When Noah Fafita took over and he had talent, they became a lot better very, very quickly. If you put talent around him, he's going to be decent. If you put a decent offensive mind around him, he's going to be good. Last year, it was a terrible offensive mind. This year with Seth Doege, it'll be interesting. Listen, Doege, you look at Dage's track record. Obviously, he put up some really, really big numbers at Texas Tech as a quarterback, threw the ball all around. Then you look at what he did at Marshall last year. Obviously, with Marshall, you don't have a ton of talent per se, but you've also got a spot as well where he came in there and he's like, you know what, we're going to have to move this one around. We're going to have to put the quarterback, or we're going to have to run the ball. Became more of a run raid type offense. I like that term. But that's kind of, like I said, that's more of what it became. And I think that's something that can be valuable at times for Arizona, is having a offensive mind that is flexible in what he is going to do. And that is a big part of all of this. And that's we'll find out. Now, as far as special teams go, this is going to be interesting. Tyler Loop obviously is off to the NFL. He's killing it right now for the Baltimore Ravens with Tyler, so there's a different situation. But can Salgado Medina be that guy? We'll find out. Tyler Loop was the guy that, you just could kind of rely on last year and the year before. He was, like I said, he was a good kicker, best way that I can put it. And then as far as your kick returners go, Jeremiah Patterson's looked pretty good in that role. Is he going to be able to maybe take that role? We'll find out. He wasn't bad last year as a kick returner. Can he be that guy that really kind of takes that next step? We'll find out. But also, this is just going to be a big year for Brent Brennan, obviously, because if they win 3 or 4 games, I think it's hard to bring him back. But if they show more of a semblance that they know what they're doing, if it looks better across the board, I think it becomes a little bit easier for Arizona at that point. But like I said, I need the team to just look better. Forget wins and losses here for a second. I need the team to look better. I need them to look more coherent out there. And that will obviously be a big step in the right direction if that does occur. So we'll find out. Now, tomorrow, we're going to be talking more about, obviously, practice, open to the public. We're also going to be talking about more Arizona basketball. Happy birthday, shout out Dwayne Aristode. Like I said, I think it's going to be Tommy's best team in the Big 12. I think this team's going to be really, really tough. And I think that it's going to be something that is going to be able to watch. And we'll see how it plays out. But football season's here. As we all know, hope springs eternal. That's the best part about all of this. And like I said, it's going to be a good time. And we'll find out. Like I said, you just want this team to look confident, and you want to have the semblance of an idea of what they are doing. But on that note, though, wanted to have a special weekend show for you. We'll be back with you tomorrow. You have been listening to Locked On Wildcats, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen.